Welcome back to the Toledo Rockets podcast. And today, I want to talk about something that was announced here in the last couple of days, a few days ago. The University of Toledo announced that they have extended the contract of Toledo head football coach Jason Candle for 3 additional years. The extension starts with the 2024 season because he was already on contract for the 2023 season. So it runs through 2026. And I talked, a little bit about this probably a couple weeks ago, where I said that he probably would get an extension and talked about the pros and cons and so forth, and really talked a lot about his accomplishments that he has managed to do. And I was in favor of giving him an extension. So, I'm still in favor of that. And I agree with the extension. And I wanted to go over a little bit of information on it. So the first thing here is I've got some information that I got off of a Toledo Blade article written by Kyle Rowland. So, Toledo Blade, of course, the local newspaper, has a lot of good information on the Toledo Rockets football program, and I definitely get information from them all the time. So, I like to read up on the job that Kyle's done covering the Rockets and so forth. So he talked a bit about the contract, and of course, with the Blade, they're able to get information from media requests on certain things, and so he got the information here that it's a $1.1 million per season that he'll be paid, with additional performance bonuses for win totals. And so here's what he has here for some of those bonuses. Candle will receive $75,000 for 6 wins during the regular season, $135,000 for 7 wins, $265,000 for 8 wins, and $325,000 for 9+ wins. So that's good. You're adding in there wins, and the more wins that you get in a season, the bigger the bonus. So that's a plus, right? Any season that Toledo wins at least 9 regular season games will result in an additional year being added to Candle's contract. That's interesting right there, right? So, let's say in 2023 they win 9 games. That would mean that the contract would be extended an additional year to 2027, as long as I'm reading that correctly. And there's some more bonuses in here. So Candle receives $25,000 for a MAC West championship or co-championship, $15,000 for appearing in the MAC title game. I'd actually go with $15,000 for the MAC West championship and $25,000 for appearing in the MAC title game. I would say that getting to that MAC title game is more important, because you could have a co-championship where you don't get to that MAC title game. So I would switch that around, but that's what's in the contract. So, and then he'll get $30,000 for winning the MAC title. And he gets $20,000 for playing in a bowl game and $30,000 for winning that bowl game. So, pretty good information there. I think it's the most interesting piece of that is where it says any season that Toledo wins at least 9 regular season games will result in an additional year being added to Candle's contract. That's interesting, Yes, 9 wins are good. I think 10 wins would probably be a better standard for that type of a clause in the contract, but still, 9-win season is a really good season, and it makes sense. And I guess when you look at it, what it does is having that in the contract probably means that Jason Candle really wants to stay at Toledo. And it's going to be really hard, I think, for him to accept a position elsewhere as long as he's still wanted in Toledo. So I think that's a pretty key piece there. I have mentioned before, and I'm going to pull up some stats from before when I talked. He's he's been doing a great job here at Toledo, right? 7 years as head coach, he's got 54 wins. Um, when I look down here, he is third all time right now, I believe. Let me find that again. So he is third all time with 54 wins. He's 4 wins away from tying Tom Amstutz with 58 for second place. And then, of course, Gary Pinkel is the all-time winningest coach in UT football history with 73 wins. So he's a little bit off of that, but not horribly, 19 wins away in this contract extension. There's no reason why he won't be able to pass that. And, in a few seasons, we could very well, heck, in 2 seasons, we could really be calling Jason Candle the winningest coach in UT football history. That's 19 wins. That could easily happen in the 2024 season that we get to that point. So, it's really hard to count against giving him an extension, and it makes a lot of sense that he did get an extension. He has won 2 MAC championships, and there's only one head coach that won more than that, won 3. He's tied with Tom Amstutz with 2 MAC championships. Other coaches that you might think of that have been great coaches at Toledo with 1 MAC championship, Gary Pinkel in 10 seasons, 1 MAC championship, 2 MAC championship game appearances that were losses, that being in 97 and 1998. Of course, 1995 was before the MAC championship game took place when he won his MAC championship, the last undefeated season for the Rockets. Nick Saban was only 1 season. He did win a MAC championship. Dan Summerall won MAC championship. Chuck Stobart won MAC championship. John Murphy won MAC championship. Tim Beckman, Matt Campbell, 0 MAC championships. So, when you look at it, there's a lot of reason that UT should be happy with Jason Candle as the head coach. And like I've said before, he's still young. There's a lot that he can improve upon. But there's a lot of good that he's done too. You look at some of the academic success as well, the recruiting classes he's had, the players that have made it to the NFL, 2 MAC championships. There's just a lot of good in there as well. So I'm going to go and read some comments that I found in social media after Toledo announced the extension through 2026. And just some comments from some fans, and kind of give you my reactions to some of these comments, right? So one fan said, he's done okay, but he can do better. Yeah, I agree. He has done okay. I'd even say he's done good, and he can do better. And I think, anybody will say that they can always do better. They can always improve as a coach or as a player or whatever, right? And I think with him being younger, 7 seasons now as a head coach, but he's still age-wise pretty young. I think that you can definitely see an improvement in his decision-making and so forth that you will see as we continue throughout this extension that he's got. So I think that's going to help as well. So let's see here. So someone says worst news of the week. He should be fired, not extended for underperforming every year. No one does less with more talent in the MAC. Again, there's a lot of talk always that he has the best talent in the MAC, #1 recruiting classes, and we should be winning it every year. But that's not a reality of what happens out there. You even look at the SEC and you look at where Alabama and Georgia have really dominated. First it was Alabama and then Georgia. But even there, it's not like you win the SEC every year. There's been years that Alabama has played in the playoff of four teams that they didn't win the SEC, you know. And the same thing with Georgia. So they won the national championship this year and win the SEC the year before. They lost the SEC championship to Alabama, but then won the national championship. So it's hard to win conference championships year after year. It really is. Um, and Jason Kendall's won two, in 2017 and then again here in 2022. So yeah, it would be nice to win more, but um, to say that he has been underperforming, you know, that's a bit of a stretch, I think, because it's one of the better coaching records that we have seen at UT. Um, so it's really hard to, you know, for me to back that. I just don't agree that, he should be let go or that he's underperformed that badly. And, you talent recruits, it's so hard to know what a player is really going to be like in college based on their high school performance. Recruiting services give it a good stab, but sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes it's based on purely on the talent of the player and not the drive of that player or their willingness to work hard. Because, in high school, sometimes you just get by with your talent that you have. And that works. That works a lot in high school. But when you get to college, everybody that's there was in the same situation you were at in high school, where they were the most talented kid, and dominating. Now you're all there. You're not necessarily going to dominate over the other guys unless you outwork them. And sometimes that doesn't come out in recruiting. So, you know, and then there's, especially now in this day and age with the transfer portal, you might have somebody that comes out and they do play really well, and then they decide to transfer somewhere else. Or maybe they were behind somebody in the depth chart and they were going to turn out to be a great player, but they were behind somebody and didn't want to wait. So they transferred out. Um, so you have all those factors. So you can't just say, oh, because they had the number one recruiting class this particular year, they should win the MAC championship. It just doesn't work that way. And, when you're out in the field, sometimes it's also just about luck, the way that things work out on the field. And college is also a very emotional game. And you will see, especially in college football, you'll see players that will do something well and get the team going. And, you see the momentum going for the team. And then something bad happens and then the other team gets momentum. So that's huge in college. And again, that's all different than talent. Those are all things that can factor in and have to be factored in. You can't just factor in talent. So, it's really hard to go with that and say, well, because you have number one recruiting class, you should win the MAC every year, because it just doesn't translate that way. So let's see about some other comments here. Here's a good one. Someone said 3 more years of mediocre football. And then someone replied, MAC champs are mediocre, huh? So, yeah, there's always been this stigma, I guess, that Jason Kendall has not performed to where he should. And I gotta say, before the way that the season played out, I was feeling skeptical a bit about how things were going as well. But overall, still it would be tough to look at the situation. Like, let's say if Toledo did not win the MAC championship this year, it would be really tough to look at that situation and not um continue to go with Jason Candle though because of what he's been able to do. Um, he has done well with the academics and getting players graduated and um there's been some good wins and there was the one MAC championship. So even then it was be kind of hard to say, we're just going to let him go. Um, and then once you win the MAC championship, and then you have the report that came out about the academic success rate being so good, um, then you win your bowl game. It's just there's no way at that point that you should even consider that he shouldn't continue as the head coach. And again, the extension is a thing that needs to happen. You don't want to go into that lame duck year, your last year, and be trying to recruit and have prospects not know if you're getting extended, right? Some of those recruits, they might be like, well, you're on the last year contract. Are you going to get an extension? Well, now that's done. There is an extension. So yes, he's still going to be here. Because, like it or not, some recruits, they don't go to a school because that they like that school. Some of them go because of they like the school and because of the coaches. Coaches can play a very big factor in that. So it was important to have this extension in there. So let's see about some more in here. Comments. Someone says, congrats, go Rockets. That's good. Um, some people upset about the negative comments in here. Another person says why he's a horrible coach. It's easy, I guess, for people to be an armchair quarterback, so to speak, and be a coach. um, put yourself in the shoes and say, yeah, I could do better as a coach, or we could get somebody else in here to do better as a coach. But you don't always know the grass is greener. You know what you got here with Jason Kendall? You got two MAC championships. You got a team that's coming back that is going to be loaded and has a very good shot at repeating next year. They really do. It just doesn't make sense to with some of these comments that that they thought they should get rid of him and so forth. Here's an interesting comment. We are primed to get two more MAC titles with talent we have coming back. Make a run at that playoff spot for the top group of 5 team. Dream big, support our boys. So there's, comment the opposite way, right? Here's another one. Jason Candle is a great coach, a real role model for his players. In the long run, he's building a lasting program. I completely agree with this person. Too many folks don't understand that the group of 5 will never be allowed to seriously compete with the Power 5. UT doesn't have the resources to even try. You're right. That's as we continue to go down the path that we're going. The Power 5 is going to continue to separate themselves from the group of 5. As these conferences get bigger, the Big Ten's expanding, right? They're bringing USC and UCLA. You could see expansion in other conferences in the Power 5. As they do that, they're going to add more conference games, right? They're looking like the SEC and Big Ten are looking at going at 9 conference games, one less non-conference game, then one less chance for them to play against a group of 5 team, where a group of 5 team like Toledo has a chance to beat somebody big like an Ohio State or Alabama, Georgia, whoever, right? So, that comment's spot on that you can't really seriously compete with those Power 5 in terms of getting into the playoff. Yes, we're going to get to a point here soon. I think it's in a couple of years that the playoff is going to expand. It's not going to be easy, but because you get a group of 5 team in there and they're going to be playing against a top team. And if they happen to win that game, they're going to be playing against one of the top teams again that they're going to keep getting seeded against the highest seed playing that week, right? Like at the beginning, the first week, you're going to have like your 4 teams with a bye, right? Probably your top Power Five conference champions will get a bye. So they could be playing like the number 4, number 5, number 3, who knows, team in the country. And then the next week they might have to play the number 1 team in the country. If they are able to get an upset in that first game. So it's not going to be easy for those teams to even get close to the national championship game. They're not going to set it up that way. They're not going to have a group of 5 team, whether it be like looking at Tulane, they had a great year this year, right? They're not going to let it like a Tulane come in there as one of the top seeds. They're going to be the number 11 or number 12 seed out of those 12 teams. That's just the way they're going to seed it. They're not going to give them a high seed just because they're a group of 5 school. You've seen it all along. You saw it when there was the BCS. You've seen it with the 14 playoff, and you're going to continue to see it that way. Um, so I completely agree with those comments there. Let's see what else we got here. So here's congratulations, coach. Um, 2 inexplicable losses to very bad BG teams can't happen, period. But yeah, he did what he needed to do in his sink or swim contract year. Hard to dispute the extension, but also hard to envision him taking the next step and putting a top 25 team on the field. You know, it's hard to say. Next year the schedule lines up pretty well. There's definitely the potential to be ranked in the top 25 at some point next year with the way it lines up. So we'll have to see. There's been previous years that Toledo's been ranked. Even under Jason Candle, that Toledo's been ranked in the top 25. So I can't say that I completely agree with that piece of it. The losing to Bowling Green, that's tough. That really it's going to make every Rocket fan upset. The loss this year just it doesn't make sense to me. The way the team came out so flat at the beginning of the game, and those are tough losses to take. But to say that this team um, can envision this team making it to the next step to the top 25. I just don't agree with that because I know they've been in the top 25 before. And again, next year's schedule does look very good for that possibility if they can make a good run. So, here's another response. Someone says more 7-5 seasons on their way. So, yeah, I mean, there's been seasons like that. But 54 and 32 overall does not come out to a 7-5 record all the time, right? This year was not a 7-5 record. And again, what I mentioned is in that contract, right? We go back to that. Any season that Toledo wins at least 9 regular season games will result in an additional year being added to Candle's contract. That's going to happen, right? There's going to be 9-year seasons. And that contract's going to keep getting extended. And when there's a 9-year season, right? There very easily can be a 9-win season, a 9-win season next year. I'd be very surprised if it's not a 10 or 11-win season at least, with the schedule that they have. So those are better than 7-5 seasons. Sure, there's been 7-5 seasons. There's 7-5 seasons with those coaches at some point, right? Maybe not all, but it's also hard to keep a guy in a school at a group of 5 school like Toledo that's winning 9-10 games. And again, Jason Candle seems to really like Toledo, like to stay here. He's turned down positions elsewhere before. I've talked about it before. It's been documented. that he turned down position as an offensive coordinator at the Miami Hurricanes. I guess it was about a year or two ago at this point. And yeah, I guess it was a year ago, about a year ago in January. So, and when you look at that, yeah, it was an offensive coordinator position, but it was good money. Oh, it was good money. This is Miami Hurricanes. This is Power Five. It is good money, and he turned it down uh, to stay at Toledo. And he took a bit of a pay cut this past year to pay some of his assistants better money. Um, this is a guy that wants to stay at Toledo, and he wants to build a winning team at Toledo, continue to improve that team. So, you know, I think it's good that Toledo is extending this contract and um, they're keeping him here. You know, again, I think the interesting, the biggest piece that's interesting to me on this is the 9-win season extends the contract an additional year. That right there tells you that Brian Blair, the athletic director, is saying, look, you win, we're going to keep extending you because we want you to stay here. You're not winning, eventually that extension's going to run out. But if you keep winning, we'll keep extending. That's what it says. This is about winning, and the academic side is there, right? The academics have been great. So I think this is really a win-win for Toledo and for Jason Candle. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think on those thoughts. And from there, I want to talk a little bit more about a couple of other things that I've seen basketball related. First of all, there's a player from Central Catholic High School. He's a 6'1" guard, Makai Leach. I'm not sure if I said that right. I think I said it right. He's averaging 11.5 points per game so far this year on a good Central team. And he just recently received an offer from the University of Toledo. So he has a scholarship offer for men's basketball team, Coach Kowalczyk. And that's good to see. The other thing that's interesting is the men's basketball team. If you haven't paid attention, they have won 5 in a row here, and they're really starting to heat up. Let me just try it if I can here, pull something up. They're really starting to play well. I can definitely say that. It was tough couple losses that they had there with Ball State, and Kent State, right? Kent State has just been incredible. But this team now, they're 6-2 in the conference. Like I said, they've won 5 in a row. They're 15-6 overall. So, almost to a 20 win season again. We look at the last 5 games here. At Northern Illinois, they won 84-67. Against Ohio at Savage Arena, they won 90-75. At Buffalo, that was a nationally televised game. They won 86-77. And back home at Savage Arena against Eastern Michigan, they won 84-79. And then again, Bowling Green, again at home on Saturday. That was a big one against the rival, 91-77. And really, game wasn't as close as the 14-point victory, right? Toledo was winning 18 to 20 points pretty much the entire second half. Kind of started to pull away there a little bit at the end of the first half and really pulled away at the beginning of the second half. So it was probably bigger than a 14-point victory. But, that's what it came out to. So it seems on a roll, right? You notice I said 84 points, 90 points, 86 points, 84 points, 91 points. They're scoring a lot of points. They're playing well. The other team, 67 points, 75, 77, 79, 77. The defense seems like it's gotten a little better. The offense seems to be a little bit better. They're shooting well, right? And that's good, as we go down the stretch here in MAC play, to be playing better defensively and being on a roll, right? So Um, Later tonight, they're going to play at Miami. And then after that, on Saturday, they're going to be hosting Central Michigan. Um, so you know, two more winnable games before a game at Akron, which should be a good, tough game, right? Akron's, good, solid team. So it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. And not too far away here. If you want to look at it, February 18th, they'll be playing at Bowling Green. So the second game here against their rival Bowling Green, that's an interesting game we want to look at. And as you also go down the stretch, down to the last regular season game, got to have this penciled in there at Ball State on March 3rd. Want to get revenge on that game, the way it went in the conference opener at Savage Arena earlier this month. So, interesting information there. Let's take a quick look here at the women's basketball team too, because they've been playing well. Again, 6-2 in the conference, just like the men's team, 15-4 overall. And when you look for the women, they won 3 in a row, 5 of their last 6, but 3 in a row after losing at Bowling Green. And that Bowling Green's just been great this year. They're easily the top team in the MAC on the women's side at this point. I think Toledo can play with them. They lost 88-76 at Bowling Green. There were some times that they were down a bit, and then they got a little closer, and then even took a lead late in that game, but then fell behind and lost by 12. I think Toledo can beat Bowling Green, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Of course, their other loss was to Northern Illinois, a game that really they shouldn't have lost. They were winning by, I think it was 17 points going into the fourth quarter and lost by 1 point. They will get Bowling Green. They don't play Northern Illinois again, I do not believe. Yeah, they do not play them, but they will get Bowling Green at the very end of the regular season another time, this time in Savage Arena. That'll be a crazy game. March 4th, it's a Saturday. Bowling Green at Toledo. What can you say? Probably looking at the two top teams in the MAC in women's basketball going to play there right before the MAC tournament starts. So that's going to be a crazy game. But looking after that Bowling Green game, right? Toledo played Akron. Akron's pretty decent team this year, right? And Toledo beat them 76-63. Nice solid win. And then the Rockets beat Miami at Savage Arena 82-63. Then this past Saturday, they played at Eastern Michigan. And this was a game, Toledo was not playing well at all. They were losing, and they came back. They were losing, in the fourth quarter. Can't remember exactly. I think they were down by like 13 points or something like that. And they came back, sent it to overtime, and they won the game 79-73 in overtime. And that's what good teams do, right? They find ways to win games that they're supposed to win. And they're struggling. They find some way to fight through that and win the game. And that's what they did. And, they're really starting to play well. The game before playing Bowling Green, they beat Kent State 77-68. The game before that, they beat Ball State 83-76. Ball State's a solid team. The women's, their women's program, just like their men's program, is pretty solid. So, it's going to be interesting in the next few games. They go down the stretch here. The next few games should be very winnable. Tomorrow night they play at Central Michigan. They should definitely win that game. Then they host Ohio, who has not played very well this year. So another game that they should win. It'd be interesting. There's a lot of winnable games on the schedule here. After that, Buffalo, Miami, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan. Then you get to Akron, Ball State, Kent State, and Bowling Green. So those last 4 games, you go down the stretch there, are going to be tougher games. No doubt about it. But those will also get them ready for MAC play, playing against some of the best teams in the MAC, getting ready for the MAC tournament play, I should say. So that's kind of the update there for the men's and women's basketball teams. Drop a line in the comments about that if you have anything for men's and women's basketball you want to talk about, or going back to the Jason Candle thing, let me know what you think about his extension. If you agree with the extension, or what do you think about that whole thing with 9 wins in a season and the extension gets extended another year? That's a pretty interesting piece, I think, in that. So let me know what you think on that. And that's it for the episode today.